What if the reason most people struggle with money their entire lives has nothing to do with how hard they work, how smart they are, or how many opportunities they get? What if the real reason is something that was decided before they were old enough to tie their own shoes? The age at which a child first learns what money actually is, what it does, how it moves, and what it means. Most children in the modern world learn about money in one of two ways. Either their parents never talk about it, treating it as a private, shameful, or complicated subject that children are not ready to understand. Or they learn it from spending it, through pocket money that disappears instantly on things that bring no return and teach no lesson. By the time most people reach adulthood, they have spent 18 years living inside a financial system they were never taught to understand, and they spend the rest of their lives paying for that gap. Jewish families close that gap at age 5. Today I'm going to show you exactly how they do it, and why it produces millionaires at a rate that has baffled economists, sociologists, and educators for generations. The number that changes everything. Jewish people represent approximately 0.2% of the world's population, yet they account for roughly 20% of the world's billionaires. They have won 22% of all Nobel Prizes ever awarded. They dominate finance, law, medicine, technology, and entertainment at rates that are statistically impossible to explain through luck or coincidence. Researchers have studied this phenomenon for decades. They have looked at genetics, at culture, at historical circumstance, at religious practice. And while many factors contribute, one pattern emerges above all others in study after study. Jewish families talk to their children about money earlier, more openly, and more specifically than virtually any other culture on earth. Not as a lecture, not as a warning, but as an education. A deliberate, structured, age-appropriate financial curriculum delivered not in a classroom, but at the kitchen table, during Shabbat dinner, inside the family business, and through carefully designed real-world experiences that teach children the principles of wealth before the world teaches them the habits of poverty. Age 5, the first lesson. In traditional Jewish households, the first money conversation happens around age 5. Not about saving, not about budgeting, not about the dangers of debt. The first lesson is about value creation. Jewish parents teach their young children that money is not something you receive, it is something you create. It is the physical representation of value that you have added to the world. When you do something useful for someone, when you solve a problem, when you make something better, money is what flows back to you as recognition of that value. This sounds simple, but think about how radically different this is from what most children are taught. Most children learn that money comes from working for someone else, from showing up, from doing what you are told, from trading time for a fixed payment decided by someone else. Jewish children learn that money comes from creating value, that the amount you receive is directly connected to the amount of value you produce, and that there is no ceiling on how much value a person can create. That single shift in philosophy, installed at age 5 before any contrary belief system has taken root, is the foundation of everything that follows. Age 8, the Tzedakah box. By age 8, most Jewish children have been introduced to the Tzedakah box, a small container kept in the home where a portion of any money received, allowance, gifts, earnings from small tasks, is set aside for giving. Most people look at this as a religious practice, a charity ritual, a nice thing to teach children about generosity. It is all of those things. But it is also something far more financially sophisticated. The Tzedakah box teaches 3 principles simultaneously that most adults never fully grasp. The first principle is that wealth has obligations, that financial prosperity is not just a personal achievement, but a communal resource that carries responsibility. Children who internalize this early develop a relationship with money that is fundamentally different from children who are taught that wealth is purely personal. They hold it differently. They deploy it more thoughtfully. And paradoxically, they tend to accumulate more of it. The second principle is the habit of paying yourself and your community first, before spending, before enjoying, before anything else. The Tzedakah contribution comes off the top. This is the original pay yourself first philosophy that modern financial advisors sell as revolutionary advice. Jewish children learn it at age 8 as a natural part of life. The third principle is the power of collective capital. When every member of a community consistently contributes a portion of their resources to a shared pool, that pool becomes capable of doing things no individual could do alone. Jewish children grow up experiencing this firsthand, and it shapes how they think about partnership, syndication, and collective investment for the rest of their lives. Age 10, inside the family business. By age 10, many Jewish children from business families are spending time inside the family enterprise, not playing, not observing from a distance, actually participating. They are watching how customers are treated, how negotiations happen, how problems get solved, how money flows in and out, how decisions get made, how relationships are built and maintained. This is not child labor. It is the most valuable education a child can receive, because it answers the question that most adults have never been able to answer clearly. Where does money actually come from? Not from a paycheck, not from a bank, not from an employer who generously decides to share some of their resources with you in exchange for your time. Money comes from solving problems for people who have them. It comes from building systems that generate value repeatedly. It comes from relationships with customers who trust you enough to give you their money in exchange for something you provide. Children who learn this at age 10 do not spend their 20s confused about why working hard for someone else never seems to produce the financial results they were promised. They already know why, and they already know what to do instead. Age 13, the Bar Mitzvah financial lesson. The Bar Mitzvah, the Jewish coming-of-age ceremony at 13, is widely known as a religious milestone. What is less known is its financial dimension. In traditional Jewish culture, the Bar Mitzvah marks the moment when a young person becomes responsible for their own decisions, including their financial decisions. Many Jewish families use this milestone to introduce their child to the family's actual financial situation for the first time. Not a simplified version, not a comfortable summary, the real numbers, the real assets, the real liabilities, the real plan. This radical transparency serves a specific purpose. It removes the mystery from wealth. It eliminates the magical thinking that surrounds money in households where finances are never discussed. And it installs in the young person a clear understanding of what the family has built, what it costs to maintain it, and what their role in its future will be. By 13, many Jewish young people have a clearer picture of wealth, assets, and financial responsibility than most adults ever achieve. Not because they are smarter, but because someone sat down with them and told them the truth. The 5 financial principles Jewish parents teach before age 18. Across all of these developmental stages, 5 core financial principles are consistently transmitted in Jewish households that produce financially successful adults. The first principle is that money is a tool, not a goal. Jewish children are taught to think about what money enables: freedom, security, opportunity, legacy, rather than treating the accumulation of money as an end in itself. This prevents the psychological traps that destroy many financially successful people who reach their goals and find them empty. The second principle is that reputation is worth more than any single transaction. Jewish business culture places extraordinary emphasis on integrity, on keeping commitments, and on treating every counterparty fairly. Children are taught from an early age that a damaged reputation costs more than any short-term gain is worth, and that a strong reputation compounds over time, just like a financial investment. The third principle is that learning never stops. Jewish culture treats ongoing education as a lifelong obligation, not a phase of life that ends with formal schooling. Children see their parents reading, studying, discussing ideas, and continuously updating their understanding of the world. This creates adults who adapt to changing financial environments rather than being destroyed by them. The fourth principle is that your network is your net worth. Jewish children grow up inside communities where relationships are treated as serious long-term assets. They watch their parents invest in friendships, maintain connections across decades, and leverage trusted networks to create opportunities that could never be accessed through formal channels alone. The fifth principle is that delayed gratification is the master skill. Through the Tzedakah practice, through working inside family businesses before receiving any benefit from them, through watching parents reinvest profits rather than spend them, Jewish children develop an intuitive comfort with waiting, with planting seeds today for harvests that will come later, with choosing the larger future reward over the smaller immediate pleasure. This single skill, more than intelligence, more than opportunity, more than any specific financial knowledge, is what separates the people who build lasting wealth from the people who earn it and spend it and end up with nothing to show for a lifetime of work. What you can start doing today. You do not need to be Jewish to give your children this education. You do not need a family business or a religious tradition or a community structure. You need three things. You need honesty. Talk to your children about money openly and specifically. Tell them what things cost. Tell them how you earn. Tell them what you save and why. Remove the mystery, because mystery breeds fear, and fear breeds avoidance, and avoidance breeds ignorance, and ignorance is the most expensive thing your child will ever inherit from you. You need intention. Create deliberate money experiences for your children. Give them real decisions to make with real money and real consequences. Let them earn. Let them save. Let them give. Let them invest in something small and watch it grow. Let them make mistakes while the stakes are low enough that the lesson is cheap. And you need philosophy. Before your child learns what a stock is, or how a mortgage works, or what compound interest means, make sure they understand why wealth matters, what it is for, what obligations it carries, and what kind of person they need to become in order to be trusted with it. The Jewish community did not produce a disproportionate number of the world's most successful people because they had access to better schools, or better opportunities, or better luck. They produced them because they started the education earlier, went deeper, and never pretended that money was too complicated or too uncomfortable for a child to understand. Your children are ready for this conversation right now. The only question is whether you are. Shalom, and may the education you give your children be worth more than anything else you ever leave them.